All right, this is Cade Brewster. I'm the founder of Brewster Consulting Group, and I am back with another video about process mapping. I'm going to try to keep this one short and sweet. So last week we talked about the basics if you want to get started with process mapping and how you can use Visio and or Lucidchart to begin creating process maps. This week I want to talk about process map levels. So there are different levels contained inside of a process map, or you can refer to process maps as being different levels. Generally, the most common ones that you're going to hear are level 1, 2, and 3. Some organizations do start at 0 and go to 2. Others might have 4 levels, but in general, the most common thing that you're going to hear is levels 1, 2, and 3. And what those levels refer to is the level of granularity that you include in a process map. So I quickly tried to illustrate that taking a piece of our mortgage process example process map from last week. That would be a level 1 process, which is the highest, most conceptual level process map. It really focuses on getting the high level details correct. And so you can see in this example, level 1, loan application, processing collects documentation, underwriting underwrites the loan, loan is closed, right? Very high level, but it describes the basic flow of a process. Level 1 process maps are really effective with executives and senior leaders who don't want to get into the weeds but want to understand basically how something works. So they're really good to illustrate the flow of a process and why the different teams break down the way they do, but you're not going to uncover a lot of detail with them. Now, what you'll notice as you progress down through the levels of process maps is that the next level, level 2 in this instance, generally is a more granular look at a single step contained in the level above it. And so in this case, I focused on processing collects the documentation and expanded that. And our level 2 process is processor 1 reviews initial client submissions, processor 1 requests tax returns and W-2s, processor 1 orders appraisal, and then the file is passed to underwriting. And so this is obviously just kind of a generic process, but it's more detailed. It uses the specific position that does that work. It uses a more detailed description. There are 4 steps in this example that make up one box in the process above it. Level 2 processes are detailed, but not granular to the level of being like a standard operating procedure, right? They don't say in this system, click here, do this, but it does describe in more detail each of the steps that are actually happening. Level 2 in general is going to be your most common level of process maps, and it's probably going to be your most valuable for understanding operations. Level 2 is really good on process improvement projects and just project management projects in general. It's also really good if you're communicating with directors or managers, people who lead functions, so that they can understand what their team is doing at a more in-depth level to really understand how the process flows. And then when you proceed from there, level 3 is obviously your most granular level of the process. This is almost like a standard operating procedure very often. Level 3 process maps can replace or complement standard operating procedures. They very often say you click here in this system, very descriptive. They're really effective when you're working with frontline employees and trying to either document exactly what they're doing to identify areas of variation, or if you're trying to give them a guide on how they should be doing something if they're like a new employee and being trained, something like that. But those are very specific. You can see here, I took the appraisal step from the level 2 process map and went even more granular where I said appraisal specialist logs into appraisal system. On the order appraisal screen, the appraisal specialist enters property address. You can see we're even being specific about the screens that we're on when we're talking about being at a level 3. Appraisal specialist selects geographically appropriate appraiser. Appraisal specialist selects order to complete the process, right? These are all made up kind of generic processes, but I think you get the idea. At a level 1, you are at the highest level, the most conceptual level. When you dive into level 2, you're looking at a subsegment of the level 1 process, and then you're doing that more in depth. Good review at an operational level. And then when you're at a level 3, you are really looking at the step-by-step granular, how is this actually done? I'm a big advocate of measuring and attaching metrics to your processes so that you can measure your success. There are in organizations oftentimes 3 levels of analytics. There is executive, operational, and performance. So executive is like high-level KPIs, how are we performing as an organization? operational or really management level KPIs. How is our team performing? And then level 3 performance is how are these individuals performing, right? At a granular level, how do we measure the success of individual employees? So you can see those levels of analytics stack up really nicely with the different levels of process maps, because you're basically diagramming how you do something and measuring the success of doing something at different levels of detail and granularity. So I'll have more videos coming up soon to talk more about this and expand on it a little bit, but I hope this was helpful in understanding the basic levels of process mapping and what that means when you say somebody reference a process map with a level, and also help you understand when you're working on a project or when you're going to process map something, understanding the needs of what you're trying to do can really dictate what level you go in and process map at. Thank you.